And it's Junkman from VintageRock.com right here on Rock Legends Cruise 3 on the high seas out here in somewhere out in the Caribbean. And I'm talking to my left, a rock legend himself, Mr. Edgar Winter. How are you, sir?
All right, are you ready to rock and roll?
Yes, we are always ready to rock and roll. And when Edgar's in the house, we always get the rock and roll, too. So
You know it.
nice to see you. Having fun playing on the boat?
Oh, you know it. It's great. What a lineup. Fabulous.
Yeah, Edgar Winter's here.
Yes, I heard that. But yeah, I got to see a little of the Doobies last night, and one of my old drummers, Tony Pia's playing with them, so that was fun.
You've pretty much, I don't know, you've been around for so long that I think you probably have played with every band on this boat at one time or another, I would imagine, right?
That's probably true.
Yeah.
It's one of the great things about this business. If you're diligent and dedicated and you stay around long enough, you get to meet a lot of the people that you've grown up with that have helped shape and influence your own music, and you can even make hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, well, occasionally, yeah. And speaking of innovators and things like that, you were the original innovator pretty much of they call it the keytar, but it was basically just, it was you putting a strap on a keyboard, and so you could be a little bit more mobile on the stage over there.
That's correct.
Now, was it simply out of frustration, or was it just something that I thought, this might be
Totally
kind
out
of cool?
of complete frustration, being stuck behind a big bank of keyboards. Nobody can see what you're doing, and you're chained to sustain and volume pedals and a mic stand in one position. It was just really not fun. I said, why do guitar players get to have all the fun? I want to get out there and boogie. So I just happened to be walking through the music store, and I saw these new synthesizers, and the ARP 2600. There were only two synthesizers back then. There was the Moog. Robert Moog is generally credited with inventing the synthesizer, and the ARP. And the ARP had a remote keyboard that was separate from the console, that was this mad scientist-looking contraption. I said, oh, this looks like fun. I said, looks like I could just put a strap on that thing. And that's what I proceeded to do, and the rest is history.
And a Frankenstein was born.
That's right. The monster was born.
Now, I've heard stories about that song when it took shape, the Frankenstein, which was, obviously it was a huge hit. I've heard stories that song, if you put all the bits and pieces together, that song would probably be about 24 hours long.
Well, in its original form, it was 25 minutes to half an hour long when we played it live. And the whole story is that I wrote the song years before it was recorded, when I was playing with my brother Johnny, and I had yet to record an album, and nobody even knew Johnny had a brother. So he'd do the first part of the set with his blues trio and say, now I'm going to bring on my little brother Edgar, and I'd walk in and say, wow, there's two of them.
Yep. He plays sax too.
Yeah, so I just wrote that riff. I said, "Oh, that's a cool blues." It's a kind of bluesy, and it was seemed like a good walk on. And I played Hammond B3 and alto sax, and we had two full drum sets on stage, and I did a dual drum solo with Johnny's drummer. So we called it the double drum song because of that, and we played it. We played it at Woodstock. We played a version. We played it at Albert Hall in London. We played it all over the world, and impromptu forgot about it for years. And then when I got the idea of putting the strap on the keyboard, I was looking for a song to feature the synthesizer, an instrumental, and I thought, wow, I bet that old double drum song, I bet that riff would sound really cool with that subsonic synth bottom. So we worked it up as a live showpiece and had no intention of recording it. But back in those days, bands would frequently go into the studio with 2 or 3 songs and actually sit down in the studio and create an album. And I think that's what made that era so special.
Yeah, it was
the immediacy of that music. And the cardinal rule is tape is always rolling. So we happened to have 2 or 3 versions of this instrumental. We were just calling it the instrumental. It didn't have a name at that point. And Rick Derringer, toward the end of the project, he said, well, maybe we could edit that into something usable. And I said, well, that's a crazy idea. It doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the of our music, the direction of the group. I really felt like the co-writing between Dan Hartman and myself, Free Ride was a song that we thought had hit potential. But anyway, I love crazy ideas, so it was a good excuse to get even more blasted than usual and have a big end of the project party. So back then, the only way to edit something was to physically cut the master tape, and it was like cutting a diamond, and splicing it back together. So it was lying all over the control room, draped over the backs of chairs and overflowing the console, and we were trying to figure out how to put it back together. And Chuck Roth, the drummer, mumbled the immortal words, "Wow, man, it's like Frankenstein," drawing the analogy of an arm here and a leg there and pasting the thing back then. So there it was, the monster. Hey, yeah, Frankenstein. It does, it really sounds, it has that awkward kind of lumbering monster feel. So it couldn't have been a better name.
And little that you knew that it was going to be a hit, and they didn't have to edit it down even further to fit on a 45 record, right?
There were huge contests, editing. I washed my hands of it. I said, it's been cut as much as it can be and still retain the integrity of the song. But I think the single version has a lot of really odd edits that are I consider unmusical and would never have the synthesizer being broken right in the middle of glissandos and glisses, and it was crazy editing, and I think that's part of what gave it such an unusual sound and an unusual vibe. Is I think those edits had something to do with it. So there you go.
Well, there's the story of Frankenstein right there. Fast forward a number of years to your current Rock and Blues Fest, dedicated to your late brother Johnny, who you mentioned. Tell us a little bit about the Blues Fest and people involved and some of the reaction. Coming with the death of Johnny during when the festival was just kind of starting out.
Well, it was very unexpected and difficult for me to accept, and I still, I know that physically it's happened, and Johnny has departed this physical plane, but his essence and his music and will always live on in my heart, and there's never going to be a time that I'll walk on stage without thinking of Johnny, because we grew up playing together, and it turned out to be it was extremely sad and bittersweet in the beginning, but getting to play some of that music turned out to be a great source of strength and comfort. So, and I'd like to thank all the fans out there that have followed Johnny's career as well as my own throughout all of these years, and it means the world to us to be able to get out there and do what we most love and see you all out there rocking and having a great time.
Exactly. Is that what 2015 holds for Edgar Winter?
Yeah.
More touring?
Yeah, we'll be we're going to be busy. There's talk about a different type of a tour that I probably should not mention because it hasn't been approved yet. But yeah, we'll be all over the place this summer. I have a book of poetry that I love to write poetry to my wife Monique. We've been married for 35 years, and she's just means the world to me. And started out as a lot of song lyrics that I never got around to using, and we decided we'd call it The Songs That Never Were. And so that is one project. And then I have some short stories that are sort of fantasies that occur in this realm called the Shadowlands, stories from the Shadowlands. And I have music for that's sort of like a soundtrack called Shadow Dance that's sort of similar to Entrance, my first album, a fusion of jazz, classical, blues, and rock. And then I have a musical comedy version of Frankenstein called Frankenstein,
Really?
in which the doctor, the posh Park Avenue plastic surgeon, like you would do Michael Jackson and people like that, and then the creation is Frankie, who is the monster, and it's sort of a social satire, and so I've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Sounds
a
like a-
lot
like
of
a-
interesting things, you know.
Yeah.
I enjoy pushing the envelope and doing things that people would never expect, and so you'll probably see some examples of that coming up in the next few years here.
That last story sounded almost like a Broadway play waiting to happen, you know?
Yeah.
You ever think about going that
precisely,
route?
That's precisely what it is.
There you go. Okay. What about in terms of recording new music, anything like that that's crossing your mind?
I have, just like everybody on the planet, my own digital studio. So I'm constantly writing, and I've got hundreds of songs. I've got a lot of songs. I don't know how many, but I just don't feel driven or particularly motivated to release albums on a regular schedule like I used to.
Right. Well, the business has changed a lot since then.
But you do want to do one now and then, just to let people know you're still alive and kicking.
Absolutely. Any thoughts on maybe joining Ringo again on the All-Star Band again?
Well, yeah, I'd love to do that.
It was
And,
so much fun when you were with him.
Well, thank you.
You looked like you were having a great time.
It, just such an honor to share the stage with him. On his 70th birthday, we were in New York, Radio City Music Hall, and at the end of it, Ringo had no idea that it was going to happen, but Paul McCartney came on, and we did Birthday, and I said, I can't believe it. I'm on stage with two Beatles.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing experience. So.
Gotta make you feel vindicated right there. I've been in this business long enough that I'm actually asked to go on stage with a Beatle, or two Beatles at that. You know.
Well, there you have it.
You know, I'll get to go and interview Edgar Winter, so I'm honored that you actually got to talk with us here at VintageRock.com. Where can people go online to go find out more about what you're up to?
You can go to EdgarWinter.com, and there's their Facebook and MySpace sites as well. So if you just Google Edgar Winter, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff out there.
Well, hopefully we can see you on next year's Rock Legends Cruise too as well. We'll love to see you back. Everybody says the same thing.
Come back. Yeah, well, we will see what the future holds.
Exactly. Well, 2015 looks like it's going to be a fun one, and I appreciate you talking with us here at VintageRock.com. Legendary Edgar Winter, and hey, again, we're at the Rock Legends Cruise 3 here in 2015. Again, thanks for talking with us, Edgar.
We'll see you soon. Keep on rocking.